Welcome to part 2 of my beginner's guide to concert photography. So in part 1, we talked a lot about what to do before the show. We talked about getting a photo pass. In part 2, we're going to talk about everything you need to do at the show. So a lot of times when you're at the show, it's easy to just get caught up in the photography itself. I mean, obviously that's very important. That's why you're there. That's what got you there. And that's what's going to keep getting you passes. But I think if you're only focusing on photography at a show, I think you're missing out on a lot of other positive things you can do at the show. Other than the actual photography itself, I think the best way you can help yourself at a show is by networking. So networking is a very general term that pretty much just means meeting people, and it's crucial to getting your name out. It's crucial to gaining exposure for your work. It's crucial to gaining clients. It really defines how your business grows or if it grows. When I was first getting going, the strategy I used to network at concerts was just handing out business cards. So I like to network from the time I arrive until the first band goes on. And in that time, I would walk around maybe the line outside or walk around inside the venue and just chat with people, just say, "Hi, my name is Peter. I'm a photographer covering the show tonight. If you want to see any photos from tonight, here's my card. Check out my Instagram, my Twitter, wherever I was posting them." I liked it, but I didn't love it. I think it worked. I think it was really good for me at getting just better at advocating for myself, at going up to people and saying, "Hi, this is what I do. This is who I am." I think I really developed that the ability to sell myself a little bit, but I don't think I was getting a really good reply from what I was doing. I felt like I was handing out way more cards than I was getting back, and it just wasn't the best way to do it. I think this tweet really summarizes what the problem was there. And so this is a very experienced photographer and videographer, and pretty much what he's saying is you can't just go up to people to get something out of them. You have to build a really organic relationship. And so that's something I've been working on doing a lot more in the last year or two. In that time, I've developed a strategy, and I think it works a lot better than just handing out cards. So what I like to do now is go around to people at the concerts and take their picture. For a while, I didn't want to do it because it just sounded like extra work. It sounded like editing the band's photos is already a lot to do, and I just didn't want to add more work on. So to get around that struggle, what I started doing was trying to take everyone's photos right before the show starts. And that leaves me, the photos are separated from the band photos in Lightroom. And I can take them all in similar lights. I can take them all with similar camera settings, and then I can go through and edit them very, very quickly because the raw photos are similar. So the way I like to take people's pictures, I'll walk around the line, walk around inside the venue, wherever it is, and I'll go up to people and, start chatting with them, say, "Hey, my name is Peter. I'm a photographer covering the show tonight. Would you mind if I took your picture?" And most people are going to say yes. Once in a while, you're going to no, and it's pretty awkward. But what are you going to do? You just got to keep moving, be friendly. It's nothing personal. They just said no. But if they say yes, my next move is obviously to take their picture. And then I'll go up to them with my cards and say, "Hi, thanks for letting me do that. If you'd like to see the picture, here's my card." So I will give them a card, and on my card is my Instagram, my Twitter, my Facebook, my email, my website, and I'll say, message me however you want, whatever's easiest for you, and I'll send you over the photo. Not everyone reaches out to get the photo, but some people will. And for those people, it's important because it sends them to my website, it sends them to my Instagram, it forces them to check out more of my work and to contact me, which means that it starts our relationship, it starts our conversation, and it just makes them more likely to come back if they ever need a photographer, and more likely to say hi if they ever see me at a show, more likely to have me take another picture of their friends at another show. And all these little things can just grow your network a little more. It can just put your name in someone else's mind and help your name get some recognition. Once I get up into the photo pit, there's a couple things I like to do. So the first one is making sure that my camera settings are all good to go. Of course, your camera settings are going to vary a lot based on your camera and based on just your creative style. So I'd recommend doing research on your camera specifically to find out what's going to work best for you. What I've found works best for me is to keep my aperture between 1.8 and 2.8. If I go lower than 1.8, I think it's hard to get the subject in focus at like 1.4 or 1.2, but if I go past 2.8, I feel like it's just too dark of an image. So between 1.8 and 2.8, I feel like I'm getting enough light into the sensor to make it a good photo, but I'm also getting a nice sharp subject and a blurry background, which I also like to have in my photos. For shutter speed, I like to stay between 1/125th and 1/200th of a second. Anything below 1/125th is just gonna have motion blur in. It's not gonna be a very sharp image. If you go past 200, it just makes the image darker, and I feel like you're not gaining a lot of clarity, you're not gaining a lot of sharpness, you're just getting a darker image, which doesn't necessarily make a better image. Instead of cranking up my shutter speed, what I'll do instead is just turn down my ISO if the photo is overexposed. So for my ISO, I like to stay between 800 and 2500. Anything lower than 800 is just dark. I mean, ultimately concerts are not well lit. They're not sunlight. They're not outdoors. Like, it's just not the best lit environment. So you're going to want to make sure you have enough light coming in, and anything below 800, you're going to have trouble getting enough light into the camera. I like to stay below 2500 though, because anything above 2500, I feel like I start to get grainy me, I start to blow out the whites. And so blown out whites mean that, the faces, the skin colors, anything that's bright in the photo is going to be overexposed. It's going to look way too white. And then the dark parts are going to look really grainy. Once I dial in my settings, the next thing I want to do is just make friends in the pit. If nothing else, it is a small space with a lot of people in it. And it's just weird not to say hi to anyone. I mean, imagine being literally shoulder to shoulder with 10 people and not ever acknowledging them. It's weird. Security, I like to say hi to because they're going to keep me safe all night and I really appreciate what they're doing. The other photographers I want to say hi to because I can learn from them. I mean, I can definitely learn from them. They've definitely done something I haven't done, whether they've been shooting one show or 100 shows. Like, everyone has something to teach each other, and I think that's really valuable. It's also just nice to make friends with them because being a concert photographer is a pretty unique lifestyle, and just meeting other concert photographers has really helped me both learn to enjoy the lifestyle and learn how to make sure it's as productive and efficient as I can be with it. Obviously, meeting the other photographers also counts as networking, which we talked about as being a very important part of photography itself. So now that that's all out of the way and I'm 100% ready to shoot the show, the band is going on and we can start working. As the band goes on, I like to try and find one side of the photo pit and work towards the other side of the photo pit over the course of the 3 songs. So I like to spend the first song on one side, the second song in the middle, and the third song on the other side of the photo pit. For me, it's just a nice, easy progression to make sure I'm covering everyone and then I'm getting photos of everything. It's awful. I have definitely done it before where you come home and you're looking at your photos and you realize you only took photos of the vocalist, whoever the star of the band is, or maybe the guitarist or whatever. It's just the worst, and it's not good to send photos to a band of only half the band. Like, the band probably wants to be identified as the entire unit, and so to only focus on one of them is just not a good look. It's not good for your photos, and it's not good for sending to the band. So by moving from one side to the other, it just helps me make sure that I got everyone and I got everything, and then I'm not going to come home and realize I forgot someone. The only thing that affects how I move through a photo pit is if there is no photo pit, or if it's a really violent show, or if there's gonna be a lot of crowd surf or something like that. If I feel like it's an environment like that, which I'm often in because I like shooting hardcore and heavy music, I like to try and start in what I think is gonna be the most dangerous part and then move towards safety as the set gets going. So usually in the first 2 songs, it's gonna be a little more calm than the rest of the set, and usually you can be safe, shooting from somewhere for a song or 2. Obviously be aware, because as you're looking at your camera, you are so distracted by what's going on behind you and you have no idea because you're just looking at your camera and you're so zeroed in on the stage. So any kind of moshing behind you can be dangerous, so just make sure you're being aware of what's in front of you and also what's behind you. While I'm shooting, I also like to avoid looking down at my camera, which sounds kind of weird, but I really don't want to be looking at photos ever during the photo pit. What I will do is look down once in a while just to make sure everything's exposed and that I'm taking the photos that I think I'm taking. But for the most part, I don't want to be looking at my camera, because the more time I'm looking down, the less time I'm watching the band, and I'm just missing shots. Like, I'm just missing moments that are happening. I'm missing opportunities. I'm missing the angle. Maybe I'm missing the lighting. There's just so much happening where you can't take a second off. I love that. I love the excitement of it. I love the rush of it. I love how hectic and chaotic it is. But if you get distracted looking at your camera, you're gonna miss a lot of it. There's nothing worse than looking up and realizing you had a perfect shot and you missed it because you were distracted looking down. And it's definitely happened to me. Sometimes, maybe it's a stage dive that you missed, or it's a good jump, or the big breakdown, whatever. All the things you want to shoot, you just don't want to be distracted. You don't want to be missing that, and you don't really know when they're going to happen. I mean, bands are on stage. It's a free performance. I have no control over what they're doing. I have no control over the lighting director. So I need to be on my toes and ready to capture any photo at any time, essentially. Lastly, you want to make sure you're just not in people's way. I mean, it's so important to be mindful, and it's kind of hard, right? Because obviously our job is to be right in the front. It's to be capturing the band, and that means being between the crowd and the band. So whether you're standing between either photographer in the band or a crowd member in the band, it's just not someone I want to be in front of. Like, I don't want to ruin the photographer's shot. I don't want to affect what they're doing, and the crowd bought tickets to be there, and I'm just there to do a job a lot of times. So it's not fair to me it's not fair to them rather, if I'm in the way and I'm getting the good spot. My goal is always to be out of the way in 30 seconds or less. So if I know I'm being in front of someone, I like to try and say, acknowledge them and just say, hi, I'm sorry, I'll be out of here in 30 seconds, and move on as quickly as I can. And then when I'm not shooting, I like to just stay out of the way, whether I'm kneeling, whether I'm off the side. I just don't want to be in the way. Concerts are awesome, right? And I don't want to be the one who has someone leaving a concert saying, I didn't have fun tonight because of this photographer who was in my way the whole night. It's just not a good look. It's not good for networking. It's not good for meeting people. It's not good for your business, for your image. I mean, bands don't want to be represented by someone who is rude. They don't want to be represented by someone who is in the way of people, who is shoving to get to the front of the photo pit. it's just not a good look and it will cost you. So make sure you're being respectful, make sure you're being polite, and make sure you're being someone that bands want to hire and want to associate with their brand. Part 2 is done. We've talked about everything I want to talk about at the show. And I'm ready for part 3. So in part 3, we're going to be talking a lot about the post-processing, which is, editing the photos. It's getting the photos from your camera to your computer, and then ultimately getting the photos out to the band or out to the client, whoever the shoot was for. This is another area where I felt like I just didn't have a lot of resources on when I was starting. So hopefully this has helped you out. I mean, I'm making it to help you out, so hopefully it's working. But otherwise, I will see you guys in part 3. I look forward to it, and hopefully it's filmed in one take so I don't have to keep refilming.